Right. Okay, well, good evening to everybody. About about to start the stream. I mean, it's one of those things, I suppose, that a lot of people are not happy about, which is understandable. Okay, I think I've got the link ready now, so we're live on YouTube, I presume. Yep, we're live on YouTube. I post a link on. God, let's get a bit of a trim there. Post a link on my Twitter account as well. So let's begin. So two things I want to talk about. Just wait for this thing to load up. Hurries up. Here we go. Well, Nadhim Zahawi has joined Reform UK. He joined today officially. I'm not sure when the official day was, but from what I've been told, it was today. So a press conference happened. Farage came out. I don't think anyone was expecting this at all. I was thinking maybe it was be a defection, but not like this. And it turns out it was Nadhim Zahawi, who was the ex-chancellor as well of the Tory party. He has said a few words with Farage before in the past, came back 2015, and the media thought that was a good approach to it, which I think was stupid, because rather than actually finding out what's really going behind the scenes and why Nadhim was brought in the first place. And I always tell people, this is the test you got to do. This is the only test you should be doing, really. And that is, you turn the video off and just listen to what I have to say first. Because if you didn't know who Nadhim Zahawi was, or who this person was defecting, you would have probably thought, man, this person must be great. We need him in the party. Then you put the video on, you look at him and think, okay, I know I'm not happy about this, because I figured out who it was. Right, now we know who it is. So people being upset and unhappy about this is completely understandable. So I don't want people to hate on anyone, particularly in the Reform camp. And it doesn't matter who, people outside of Reform I don't really care about, because they don't care about Reform, right? I talk about people within the Reform itself. You people know I have my disagreements. I've still got a video on my channel criticising Farage years ago, right? I still stand by it. But I'm not going to hate on the guy, right? I'll give him a chance, like we should always give everybody another chance to see if they can make things work this time around. And in Nadhim Zahawi, I don't know him personally, like even Nadine Doris, which I wasn't a fan of, but she's a member of the party. I don't think she has any real intention to run. And the same thing probably applies to Nadhim Zahawi, because he could probably run as a Tory and still win a seat. I don't think this is about winning a seat, though. That's ridiculous. And that's why the Tories are a little bit upset with this, because they thought they'll keep him in there. And there are people still going to vote Tory, unfortunately. But based on some polls, they're in second place. So Labour have got real problems. Reform, again, from Farage's perspective, I'm not entirely sure where he's going with this, but I'm not one of those who's going to say to trust a plan. I hate that whole thing they do in America with Trump, right? You should give it time, because a week from now, Labour's bound to do another screw up. We'll forget about Nadhim Zahawi completely, and we move on. Okay, he's just a member of the party now. He's not running as an MP. I know there was a tweet back in December just last month, in fact. I think it was last month, or the month before that, that came out from Zia Yusuf that said, don't think we'll just bring all these ex-Tories in to run for the seats. You guys, the Reform people, get priority. Farage has talked about how there's an election coming up in 2027, I believe, so next year. Okay, that's a year from now. That's very, very close by. And I hope, people understand that, yes, that is still a year from now, but it'll fly by very quickly. And I don't think, in my view, I don't think Farage can wait around for people to put their names forward and try and become candidates. And the whole thing about Twitter and what they sell on Facebook, whatever it might be, makes no difference. In fact, it's stupid because, let's face it, all 650 candidates for reform, if they were to have 650 candidates, are bound to have a whole list of things they said on Twitter which they probably regret. Okay, so I don't care about what he said about Farage before. I care about what he's going to do now. And of course, if he wasn't to run as an MP, what's his role behind the scenes? That's actually more important. I don't care if he ran as an MP. I'm actually cool with that. I'm actually more worried or more questioning what exactly we're doing. Now, he's got a wealth of experience, they say. Fine, I get that. He's been there inside government, like maybe not, maybe more so obviously than in Kruger. But that being said, we still need to have a bit of a openness about this, because that's the one thing people are concerned about. So if you're a reform and you have concerns, I completely understand that, and actually there's something you should voice and try and demand more from these people. All right, we need to know a little bit more what the plan is here, okay? And whether Zahawi's got his own aspirations, as most politicians do, as they've had in the past, sure, he probably does. He probably has a lot of aspirations. So don't blame him if he's trying to sneak his way in. That's perfectly normal for anyone to do. Doesn't know what their political ideology is. I don't know him personally. I know he's got Iraqi background similar to mine. Not the exact same, but family roots are Iraqi. He's clearly worked his way up, so he's quite successful what he's done. Is he a nice person? I've not heard anyone come out. Might get some stories similar to Farage and say he was a bully at school, Nadhim. You can't trust the guy. These things might come out too. Okay, but again, he's not running it as an MP officially, so you're not going to see anything like that come out. The media should have fixated, I think, in my opinion, the media should have fixated on the issues surrounding, for example, what exactly is going to be the role going forward, and how do you envision Nadhim's influence on the party. And unfortunately, the media were trying to play all this gotcha garbage, which really annoys me. That's why I turned off the press conference, not because I had no interest in what he had to say, or the responses and questions, but because I knew what the questions were going to be, And I hope, and we'll see how it pans out, because give it time, that there are probably going to be more defections. There probably are. It raises another question about the situation regarding Tory party, because Jacob Rees-Mogg is probably the most conservative person you'll find in the Tory party, and he has no intention at all, none. And he's made it very clear about this. He's going to join Reform, right? I know he's good friends with Farage, and that he seems okay to be sitting on the sidelines for now. Will it come to a point that he might join Reform? Maybe, but it's actually probably less than what I'll say. It's about 1%. I'll be just shocked if it happens. The fact that there's going to be more defections probably going forward from now to next year, and of course by that time I have a new Prime Minister. With the state of things are right now with Starmer and the ratings of the poll numbers, the favourabilities are so damn low, he's just as bad, if not worse, than Theresa May. So you might even get a new Prime Minister by that point. Things are changing very quickly on the ground. So we've got the elections, local elections, whichever ones are running, because obviously they're trying to cancel most of them, in May. I think that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter now. The impact will be huge, because the news is Labour lost all their seats, or Labour have been hit badly across the entire country, particularly England and Wales. But based on the poll numbers, and these poll numbers are pretty good, as an accurate in some respect in terms of the propriety of any leader, you have to say that those by-elections, or whether it's local elections or by-elections, are not going to matter too much. They're not going to matter too much to Labour, because they know they're almost done and dusted. They're making the most of it now. I said this in the stream last year, and I've said it in previous streams many years ago, how politicians work. If they know their career is coming down to the end in terms of being an MP or a local council, they milk it for what it's worth, and particularly MPs like to keep that pension. Right? It's a pretty damn good salary to have. I'm not saying it's easy work, but it's a pretty damn salary to have. So this is why I think the Reform are just saying we'll scoop up who we can, and the headline itself is a huge headline, right? In terms, the impact is not so much whether Nahim's going to have a good impact in the party; it's the headline itself is a huge impact on Tories. They are seething right now, from what I'm hearing, and because they said, well, this guy came to us and said, oh, he wanted a peerage, which I think, from what I read so far, I'm more happy to wait to see if there's any evidence that comes out. I think it's rubbish at this point that anything that happened. And they pointed as a similar thing to Kruger, that Kruger wanted a place in the shadow cabinet and be a bit more higher up. Well, the Tories can't tell these people are charlatans or bad people when they in fact rated them so hard in the first place. Okay, it was pretty clear that Ken Badenoch wanted to keep Nadhim Zahawi in the party and keep them close. In fact, they say, we've got nothing to do with you guys anymore. If it's that bad in the Tory party, something's happening. So I think for people outside the party, they always have their own opinion. They have the number one, I told you so, it's another Muslim that's joined the party, or it's another Tory that's joined the party, and that. I don't care about those opinions. I haven't got time for that. Okay? You're wasting your time with me, you're wasting your time with everyone else in reform, because you guys have no intention of voting for reform, nor do you want them to win. Because if you want them to win, you actually get off your backside and run yourself. That's all right. You go in there, be active in the party, run your own constituency or the local office in the constituency that you're in. I'm getting words out today. In the area that you live in, right, whether it's a local area, local council, or the entire region itself, and be active. But most people who talk about this all the time on Twitter are lazy, right? And the fact is, that doesn't represent real life, right? There's no poll to come out just that this is a bad choice. If there's an online poll right now, Rupert Lowe or Ben Habib, all those other types, and said, is he a good or bad choice? All the people that detest the reform are going to vote one way, and people that do love reform are going to vote another way. That's just online. That's got nothing to do with real life. So that doesn't matter. What matters is that the reform starts to get a bit more serious, regardless of the defections, regardless of whether they're ex-Tory, ex-Labour, whatever they are, right, about policy. Okay? So if you take the London mayoral elections that are going to come up at some point, with Leila Cunningham as going to be the candidate forward for Reform UK, who's going to stand as the candidate for Reform UK, you can tell us how bad Khan is, but you need to come out with an actual plan, how you're going to tackle things. And they talk about crime a lot, which is actually good, because even though they keep having these headlines that crime's gone down, believe me, people feel it in London. They just get on with their lives, just want to carry on. Their taxes are too high, the bills are too high, travel costs are too high. You know, these are the things you've got to try and talk about. If you're talking about how bad Khan is and how knife crime is bad, meanwhile Khan is telling you, I'm going to freeze your bus fares, he's going to win. And he should win, because he's actually come up with a plan or policy where if you think it's right, wrong, or if it's cost, it's been put into the budget, it actually is actually what you can make it happen. You, on the other hand, are attacking him personally is not going to work. And I hope reform don't go down that route. And then so far, there's been no evidence of that. But I hope it doesn't happen, because you'll not win elections that way. So when it comes to Nadhim Zahawi, so I'm just keeping an eye on the website because I'm waiting for it to load up properly. Just getting the files in here. Hopefully people will wake up to that and realise that this is actually one way we can get things done. And yes, you're not going to agree with everything I say, you're not going to agree with everything that Reform does, or Farage for that matter. And quite frankly, I couldn't care less about that. If I'm going to have to focus base on purely on a binary choice, or binary choice in terms of what candidate we go for, on the basis of what they believe and what they say and do, then I'm probably not going to vote for anyone. And I get if you're that kind of person, right? It's fair play to you if you say, well, I've always stood by this as my principles based on how I'm going to vote. On that basis, fine. But those who are out there who are saying that we've got to vote for reform, and then this happens, and someone say, oh, I'm not happy about it, so I'm not going to vote for, throw a tantrum, go in the pub, have a drink, or watch football. Guys, this cannot carry on. You're not on the team. And being on the team, by the way, just so you understand, is not about us, being yes men. We can all disagree on things, but we need to start, I think, in my view, need to start thinking about how we're going to progress from here, the reform getting to power, and how we go from there. Because once you're in power, you've got to start doing things. You've got to start acting. And I don't think people realise how much work has got to be done. Because they'll celebrate the win if it happens, if reform pull it off, which I think it'll still be a magnificent victory if they pull it off. It'll be quite something. I still don't think they can, based on the current poll numbers, based on the current setup they have. But if they do pull this off, it'll be one of the greatest victories of all time, all history. Then, once you're in, you've got to get stuff done. People got to keep an eye, a close eye on what you're doing. And, sorry, I'm trying to think thing though. Where is it gone? Here we go. So, open that, calls that. Fix. So I'm showing information. So, that's pretty much enough for Nadhim Zahawi, by the way. I'm going to move on to, because there'll be more coming out. So the story's just going to die down and go back to where we were before. So let me just go back here. You can now see the website screen. And this is the MP vote screen, which we'll get to in a second. I'm just trying to update the... In the templates constituencies show, what the hell is this even doing? This is all messy here. So the coding is a little bit off here, and I'm going to try and fix it now. Let's go to templates. Which one is it? Constituencies. Templates. Constituencies. And it's just show file, I think. Okay. Match. What do I want to say? Now sync with the original schema. Showing the code here. So okay, so you go to models, file, constituency. So you can see there, just so you understand what's happening there on the left hand side on the main screen, let's say. So the MP votes, browse MPs, party constituencies, historical divisions. Oh, excuse me, oh, tired. The division's still a work in progress, still a long way to go. Go to MPs, I'll get to that in a second. This is the current status of the website at the moment. God, it's messy here. Models, constituency. Alright, so God, get back for all the time here. Okay. So that one there, that page, go to the bottom, we have this code here. I think. Put a space there. Save that. Close. I mean, it's going to work, but here's one example of match slide and search database. Okay, let's have a look. So let's give them that there. So now the constituencies. Okay, so if let's have a look here. So MPs, political parties, constituencies, divisions. So there is going to be more on this in the future. But for now, that's what I'm working on as we speak. So if I go to MPs here, you can see all parties are here as well. You can see there's quite a lot there which are not in fact active, they're actually dissolved. So for example, the Independent Group for Change is dissolved. They've got no active MPs obviously. If I take until they're going to apply, you'll see there are some faces here which are historical. Which makes me laugh because there's one or two missing from here. That's interesting. I mean, who can forget Anna Soubry? So, and you can see if I break it down by this, in terms of the party, former MP is quite critical because obviously that will distinguish between the current ones and the former MPs. This has, I think, all historical MPs. If I get to MPs table again, you've got 650. I'm going to apply. You've got over 2,390 MPs. So if I was to go to political parties and go to Labour, for example, you'll see there are 404 current people who are actually elected and 644 former, 1,048 in total. If I scroll down the page, you're going to try and change this up a little bit because it is a bit all over the place. This is actually zoomed in, by the way, quite a bit, so I haven't actually given you the actual the official size of this page. We're going to try and make it more mobile friendly, probably more tablet friendly as well, and more importantly is the fact that we need to get it so it's probably user friendly. I just don't want to say mobile friendly, user friendly. So if you're tapping on a screen, you're tapping on a photo or the name, you go straight there. I mean, you know the person by name, typically you don't have to look at their photo as such. So if I keep scrolling down, got that tweet, Darren and Jones, like Dawn Butler, for example. I'll get to the bottom in a second. So voting record, nothing's there at the moment because nothing's been imported. Scoring, progressive versus conservative scoring, they'll explain this much later once we get the data in because it's easier for me to go through that with you. Notes, borrow free contact links, probably like, you know, social media links on there as well, but I'm not interested in that at the moment. That's not actually something I need to put on there at all. I think I might even get rid of that. Current status, current MP, that's what it's supposed to be. I should say employed. Party, Labour, Brentney's constituency. Now if I was to go to the constituency directly, oh, there's an error. Okay, there's a problem there, that site, which someone needs to fix up. But what will happen is you go to that page and it'll give you the details of the constituency, and at the bottom it'll say who's been elected as well. So you're going to get previous MPs as well and their voting record. So most that's probably not relevant as such, but it's more historical data. The live data is what you're probably more interested in at the present time. So if I go back, but I keep scrolling down, if we're going way down here because there's so many MPs, you'll notice eventually it's going to say former. You can see here, former names. Caroline Finn's quite a well-known name there. There she is, and Don Valley. Because then it will actually show when she was elected and when it ended as well in terms of dates. But again, that's still being worked on. I'm not sure what's happening. I need to look and see what the errors caused there. But that's something which, like I said, it's handy to have. Should they run again? I don't think Caroline Finn's going to run again, to be honest with you, based on the current situation that she's in right now. So there's quite a few. There's no photo. I'm not sure why, whether there's no photo. There's a reason for that. Not quite sure. Have to wait and see. Let's see here. Yeah, Gloria DePiro is also another one I'm familiar with. Well, most people are familiar with Ashfield. Again, that's all changed since then. And again, the same goes for all the other political parties as well. So if I go right to the top, well, mine's going to be a headache, isn't it? Give an absolute headache. Go to parties. You know, Sinn Féin are here, but they're actually down here somewhere. And, or are they? Oh, they're not active. Okay, because they're not actually in Parliament. Yeah, you see, Sinn Féin were actually got 7 MPs, but they're not actually. They obviously have their own reasons not to be in Parliament in there. Their class is inactive, but they're an active party. That makes sense. In the UK, as such, they're not active of us directly. They probably should say active, to be fair, because they are actually a political party that's actually around. Reform situations before. You can see Farage. We know Danny Kruger came in not too long ago. So that means the constituency he was in is just shown as a Tory, and now obviously as Reform, which again we'll be working out eventually. Okay. 0 former. Technically there was one former, and that would be, of course, would be if I go to MPs and I type in Low. He's independent now. That should technically show his constituency as a Reform MP, now independent. Okay. So that's where at the moment of the site, and it's actually not many changes from the last video I did. Okay, but my point is that I'm eventually going to let's go back to my big screen so you can see my ugly mutt. There's going to be more updates like this, but with more changes. That just I'm coming back from work and I've got time really to keep looking at code, but I'm doing what I can. That's the latest so far. Data is important from the Parliament Hansard data sets. So the division data is going to be a lot of data in there. What's going to have to do now is going to have to take, this is how we're going to have to progress forward. What's the next changes to expect in the next update? The MPs, parties, constituencies to be a little bit more tidy up, a bit more user friendly, plus have more details on there. The division data, if we get to that by the next update, which I'm planning to, is to actually have the division data in there, is to then go through how we'll examine the bills that have been put forward, the divisions, the votes. That's to give every single division, every single vote out who voted against their MP record, how they voted, plus how you actually calculate on the basis of whether it's a progressive or a conservative vote, right? And that will then, from that, based on those votes and how we calculate, and I'm trying to explain in more detail next time around, will then determine where we're at in terms of who's the progressive MPs, who are the conservative MPs. And I'll explain more details about that as well, because I want people to get caught up in this whole thing about being slanted one way, or, you know, trying to be as smooth as I can be by trying to give a hint as to who I think is more conservative than other MPs. The whole point of this is to give people at least a bit of a idea how people are voting and why they're voting that way, and whether or not voting a certain way is actually a good or a bad thing. Because there could be some votes and you might think, why do you vote conservative here? This is probably something we need to change. Whereas in other cases, it's probably best to vote conservative because we want to keep it that way because it still works, right? So that's something to look forward to. Probably the next update I'll try and do is either late this weekend or next week, right? So probably on Saturday, maybe on Friday night if I can squeeze it in. If not, be Saturday. Will be hopefully a bit more updated, a bit more a change up of what you've seen here so far. So that's the end of the stream, and hopefully see you guys.